Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I'm going to tell you about the new Netflix original movie, Dolemite Is My Name, and whether or not it's as good as they claim. So, Dolemite Is My Name is a biopic of Rudy Ray Moore, who is most famous for sort of mainstreaming the blaxploitation films, starting off with his first feature film, Dolemite, which came out in 1975.
Dolemite is my name, and f***ing up motherfuckers is my game.
Now, it wasn't the first blaxploitation film, but it was the first one to really explode big on the scene. He's also sort of regarded as the godfather of rap. He himself was not a rapper, but his rhymes inspired some of the first rappers to come on the scene. So he's a very important figure, particularly within black culture. And I'll just start off by saying I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I'll explain why. There's a reason why I enjoyed it so much, and I'm going to try to give you an objective review as well, just to give you an idea as to whether or not you're going to enjoy it, as well as some insight as to why this movie's so enjoyable. But the cast includes Eddie Murphy, who plays Rudy Ray Moore, Keegan-Michael Key, Mike Epps, Craig Robinson, and Wesley Snipes, and more. I mean, this is a big cast, and I thought everybody did a good job. You know, Rudy Ray Moore was not a good actor, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Eddie Murphy is certainly a better actor, but he's not really good enough to become Rudy Ray Moore, yet he's effective. He's funny in the role. I felt like I was watching Eddie Murphy. He didn't become another person, but it doesn't really matter. It was, like I said, effective, and it worked for this movie. This movie's directed by Craig Brewer, whose other movies include Hustle and Flow and Black Snake Moan. He's a white guy, and he does a great job, I think, of telling black stories, and this movie's no exception. It's also written by a couple of white guys, but they're the guys behind movies like Ed Wood and The People vs. Larry Flint, so they've got a pretty good pedigree when it comes to biopics, particularly people in the film and entertainment industry. So that's really ultimately what this movie is, and I enjoyed it because of that. Now, the story of Rudy Ray Moore and creating this Dolemite character in the Dolemite movie was originally this movie about black creators creating something for the black community, and that's what it was, and it's a good story in that respect. But here in 2019, it's really a story about independent creators. Racial lines have blurred more than ever in this country, despite what you hear on the news, and there are far more independent creators, particularly in America, but the world as a whole, than there have ever been with the evolution of YouTube and other outlets. And there are a ton of stories, chart-topping stories, people like Billie Eilish that started off independently on platforms like YouTube. And so this story is even more relevant for today's audience than I think it was in the 70s. And for me, it's oddly satisfying to see people succeed, and that's what you get with this movie. You see this amazing success story. And this was an oddly happy movie and inspiring movie, and just a good motivational movie as well. I mean, Rudy Ray Moore, his character and Eddie Murphy's depiction of him is very positive throughout the whole thing. Now, there are rough patches, as there always are in a biopic like this, but the movie spends a lot of time with these characters having fun and just being happy to be creating something and to be driving towards this goal of like making a movie independently. And that's what I really loved about it. As someone that just has such a passion for film, I was very inspired by this movie and touched by it. It was much warmer than I expected it to be. I think I was in a particularly susceptible place. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and then almost even teared up at the end, because there's a dedication to someone in particular that I'm not going to spoil right before the end credits, and I thought that was really special as well, and ultimately just felt like this was a pretty special movie. However, I do feel like I'm a little bit more into it than a lot of you will be. That said, it still is a very fun watch. I already mentioned the really eclectic cast and Eddie Murphy, but Wesley Snipes has a pretty meaty role in this, and I feel like he has more fun than I've seen him have on screen since like Demolition Man. To be critical of the movie, I think some scenes went on a little bit too long. I think the whole process of them making the movie really started to drag out. I didn't mind it because I was so into the movie, yet just from a technical standpoint, I think they could have pared it down a little bit. This movie is 2 hours, and I'm not sure it really needed to be. And fair warning, I didn't have a problem with any of this, but this movie is loaded with profanity, sex scenes, nudity, including Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy did put on weight to play Rudy Ray Moore, and you do see Eddie Murphy naked more than once in this movie. And the movie's ultimately a comedy, but it's not a knee slapper of a comedy. It's not a lot of jokes. I mean, there's the jokes that Rudy Ray Moore is saying as the Dolemite character, but there's not a lot of jokes in terms of the story. It's just fun, and there's funny moments and things like that. So again, comedy, but don't go into it expecting to just be laughing throughout. But I think you'll probably be smiling throughout.
All my life, people been telling me no.
Rudy, sometimes our dreams just don't come true.
A man slam a door in my face, I just find another door.
I want the world to know I exist.
You can write. This ain't funny. And it ain't no brothers in it either.
If I get up in that light with my own movie, I could be everywhere all at once. Let's bring Dolemite to the screen.
And I think it's ultimately about a guy who wasn't particularly talented, that just kept trying to be successful, but more importantly, he gave up on the things that were not working for him. And that is so often something that's not talked about. People say you can be anything, you can do anything. That's true to a certain extent. Rudy Ray Moore wanted to be a star. He wanted to be famous, he wanted to be successful, but he tried being a singer, he tried being a stand-up comedian. He kept failing over and over again because he wasn't particularly talented at those things, and then ultimately found a niche. He found what worked for him, and he kept pushing, and he busted through all the roadblocks, and he made it work and became a success. Now, that doesn't happen for everybody, but I can just tell you from my perspective, I have tried a lot of stuff in my life. I had an e-commerce business that failed. I had a blog that didn't go anywhere. The YouTube channel has really been difficult for me for a long time. Yes, I'm creeping up on 100,000 subscribers, but I have, between a handful of channels, I have uploaded probably about 500 videos, and not that many of them are that successful. In fact, there were a lot of concepts that I had for things to do on this channel that I tried multiple times, and they just didn't work, and I had to give up on them because they weren't going anywhere, and I directed my energy in other directions, and that is what has led this channel to be as successful as it is. And so in that respect, I think this is a good movie for younger people to see, despite the fact that it's got a lot of, you know, the sex and nudity and stuff in it. It's inspiring if you watch it through the right lens. So I hope you liked that review. I hope you enjoyed the movie. Ultimately, this is a Netflix original movie. It is a made-for-TV quality movie. But there are a lot of these biopics for artists and musicians and stuff that are made for TV, and if I'm judging it in that category, Dolemite Is My Name is a fantastic one. Take a quick moment to thank all the Patreon supporters. They're keeping the show alive, and they kind of allow me to do these quickie reviews, and I'm trying to do more content for you guys, so thank them. I appreciate every single one of them. These are the people paying $5 or more per month to help support the channel, but I will keep making these one-off reviews as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one.